Have you ever wondered whether ancient civilizations were trying to speak directly to us across time, and whether we simply lack the tools to listen until now? Stay with me until the very end, because what you are about to hear completely changes the meaning of one of the greatest mysteries on Earth, and reveals that we have only just begun to understand what was hidden beneath the desert sands. A message nearly 2,000 years old has finally been decoded, not by chance, not by intuition, but by artificial intelligence, and what it reveals about the Nazca Lines will permanently alter how we see ancient cultures, human intelligence, and the landscape itself. In the southern desert of Peru, an ancient people carved enormous designs directly into the earth. These figures are so vast, so precise, and so deliberate that they can only be fully appreciated from the sky or from elevated viewpoints. For nearly a century, scientists believed they had cataloged and understood everything there was to know about these markings. They were wrong. In 2024, all of that certainty collapsed. Across an immense desert plateau lie figures that defy logic and scale. A spider stretching nearly 50 meters long, a hummingbird with wings wider than a football field, a monkey frozen in motion with a spiraled tail measuring almost 90 meters. These are the legendary Nazca Lines, drawings so enormous and so accurate that for decades people questioned how they were even possible. Researchers spent generations walking this desert inch by inch, recording every visible line and figure. After nearly 100 years of fieldwork, they believed they had identified 430 geoglyphs in total. But what if that number was never close to complete? What if hundreds of images were hiding in plain sight, erased by wind, faded by time, and invisible to the human eye at ground level? That was the hypothesis proposed by researchers from Yamagata University. In 2024, they decided to attempt something no one had tried before. They trained an artificial intelligence system using every known Nazca geoglyph, then allowed it to analyze the entire desert region without human bias or fatigue. What the system discovered stunned the scientific community. In just 6 months, the AI achieved what humans could not accomplish in a century. Before we go further, if discoveries like this fascinate you and you want to stay ahead of what artificial intelligence is uncovering about our past, take a moment right now to subscribe and activate notifications so you do not miss what comes next. The AI examined the same area that generations of archaeologists had physically explored. But unlike humans, it did not walk the terrain. It analyzed millions of data points simultaneously. Subtle changes in soil texture, microscopic shadow variations, patterns invisible to the naked eye. Each satellite image covering hundreds of square kilometers was scanned methodically. The system assigned probability scores to locations: 73% likelihood here, 84% there, over 90% in another area. Hundreds of locations were flagged. The research team was skeptical. Many of these areas had been walked over countless times. Surely something so significant would have been noticed. But they decided to test the first prediction. They went into the desert and found a geoglyph barely visible from the ground, preserved for nearly 2,000 years. They tested a second location, another geoglyph, then another, and another. The AI was correct. By the end of the field verification process, 303 previously unknown figurative geoglyphs had been confirmed. The number of known Nazca images nearly doubled overnight. But the real revelation did not come from the quantity of discoveries. It came from what these new images represented. When researchers compared the newly discovered geoglyphs with those found over the previous century, a striking pattern emerged. The Nazca were not creating random art. They were building a structured communication system. Consider two images. One is a massive condor with wings spread over 130 meters, surrounded by straight lines and geometric shapes. The other is a small human figure, barely 9 meters tall, positioned beside a winding path. Both were created by the same culture in the same desert, yet they serve entirely different purposes. For decades, scholars believed all Nazca geoglyphs had the same function, whether astronomical, ceremonial, or religious. Artificial intelligence revealed something else entirely. There were two distinct categories of geoglyphs. The first type consisted of enormous linear figures, many exceeding 90 meters in length. These are the iconic animals most people recognize. Nearly 2/3 of them depict wild creatures such as condors, spiders, serpents, and whales. These animals were not domesticated. They symbolized untamed natural forces. These massive figures were clustered around networks of straight lines and geometric shapes that researchers now identify as ritual plazas designed for large gatherings. The second type consisted of much smaller relief geoglyphs averaging around 10 meters long. These were placed near winding paths and trails at distances ideal for human observation. Over 80% of them depict human figures, ritual scenes, severed heads, symbolic sacrifices, domesticated animals in daily life. These images were not meant for the sky. They were meant for people walking through the desert. The Nazca had created a two-level communication system, one designed for the gods visible from afar, and another designed for pilgrims on foot. This raises an even more important question. Where were these pilgrims going? When researchers mapped the locations of the smaller geoglyphs along ancient paths, a breathtaking pattern emerged. The entire desert functioned as a pilgrimage network. All routes converged toward a single destination, Kawachi. Kawachi was a vast ceremonial center built entirely from adobe. It covered more than 1 square kilometer and rose nearly 30 meters high, making it larger than hundreds of football fields combined. It was the spiritual heart of the Nazca world. Archaeological excavations uncovered offerings, textiles, pottery ritual, instruments, and evidence of human sacrifice. The journey mattered as much as the destination. Pilgrims left the river valleys, the only reliable water source, and followed marked paths across the desert. Along the way, smaller geoglyphs reminded them of sacrifice devotion and spiritual obligation. As they approached the ceremonial center, massive animal figures signaled sacred gathering spaces where rituals began. This was not random art. It was intentional landscape design infused with meaning. For years, many believed the Nazca Lines were astronomical maps. That idea originated in the early 20th century when researchers believed certain lines aligned with solstices and constellations. But AI analysis combined with modern archaeology showed those alignments relied on modern Western star interpretations, not Nazca belief systems. The Nazca were not mapping the sky. They were mapping survival, water faith, and community in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The lines endured for nearly 2,000 years because the desert received almost no rainfall. Today, that protection is disappearing. Climate change has intensified extreme weather and El Niño events, bringing floods to areas once untouched for millennia. Ironically, the Nazca civilization itself collapsed around 500 due to catastrophic flooding that destroyed their agricultural systems. Now the same forces threaten to erase their final messages. The AI discoveries arrived just in time. By identifying 303 new geoglyphs and over 1,000 additional potential sites, researchers can now prioritize preservation and digital recording before they vanish. As of mid-2025, nearly 900 figurative geoglyphs have been cataloged, most of them discovered through artificial intelligence. Many more remain hidden beneath the sand. Some estimates suggest the true number could exceed 2,000 when geometric designs are included. Field teams continue to verify new sites even now. If you want to stay updated on what they uncover next, make sure to like this video so the algorithm brings you future discoveries. The Nazca Lines are not messages to the stars or signs of extraterrestrial visitors. They are profoundly human. They say we exist. Our beliefs matter. Our rituals bind us to forces greater than ourselves. The Nazca transformed an entire desert into a sacred landscape with messages for gods and travelers alike. It took artificial intelligence for us to finally hear them. For the first time in 2,000 years, the stones speak clearly, and now we understand.